Hey everybody, welcome back. Module 3. Wow, our last module in the course. I am excited that your research question has dictated that you're going to be working with grounded theory and focus group research, because this is one of my favorite ways to do research, and it's kind of interesting because a lot of my research questions dictate that this is what I'm going to be using. So in the preliminary podcast to this track, you heard, hey, this research question really dictates your methods. And so hopefully you are doing a qualitative framework based on your question, not because you don't like statistics or something like that. And so we're going to go into this today, and hopefully you're going to get a snapshot of what's going on. Hey, I'm wearing my favorite shirt. Maybe you've seen it before. So, grounded theory research, what is it? Ways of performing it, examples of it. We're going to hit you with a real-life example at the end of this thing, and you're going to say, oh my gosh, that's a real student going through the real process of conducting research based on a grounded theory and focus group perspective. So you're going to get a little snapshot of both grounded theory and focus group research and how to do it. So what is grounded theory research? Well, it was founded back in '67 by Glasser and Strauss. It refers to both the method and the end result of the research process, because we start with the idea of a methodology of grounded theory, and then we actually allow grounded theory to emerge at the end. So it's inductive research. Remember, that goes from specific to general. We are creating some type of theory that then we can have implications for and contribute to the field with regards to grounded theory research. Now, I talked about how it emerges. It emerges naturalistically from the data. So you might have heard naturalistic inquiry and qualitative inquiry almost used as synonyms. That's because it's a very naturalistic kind of organic process where we allow the data to lead us where we want to go. So that's what that emergent grounded theory is. Now, the theory evolves during the actual research, and it does this through continuous interplay between analysis and data collection. What that means is that I'm just going back and forth. I'm collecting data, I'm analyzing data. I'm collecting data, I'm analyzing data. And because I keep bouncing back and forth, I see those themes emerge that are going to eventually lead to that grounded theory. So performing it, what do we do? Well, the researcher is an integral piece of the data collection process. Maybe you were really interested in survey research, and Mike Hazel talked about how the researcher has to be a non-biased person within the study. They have to separate themselves from what's going on. With regards to grounded theory research, it's actually the opposite of that. The researcher is an integral piece of the data collection process. So through that interconnectedness of the researcher and the data, the researcher is able to evaluate the data as it's collected. So I'm sitting there hanging out, conducting a personal interview, or an ethnography like John Caputo talked about, or maybe even a focus group that we're going to talk about in a second. And as people respond, I can analyze that data in my head, and that allows me to create that grounded theory or allow those themes to emerge so then we can get to the grounded theory. A concept indicator model is employed. That's what I'm talking about. Different themes or concepts indicate X. So that's the implication. And that in turn uses the method of constant comparison as a means for analysis. So I'm always comparing what one person said to what another person said and allowing for the consistency of themes to emerge naturalistically. That's what that means in simplistic terms. So what is that constant comparative analysis that I was talking about? Again, Glasser and Strauss, some pretty cool cats, allowed for the themes to emerge from the data naturalistically. They came up with this idea, and that provides the foundation for grounded theory research. Now, we need to do a sampling. We need to get some respondents that we can actually collect the data from. So, at the beginning of this module, you listened to that podcast, and it referred you to a specific chapter within the Newman book. I want you to go to that chapter, open it up, and then this is going to make a lot more sense. Because it's a qualitative nature, we're going to have a purposive sample. Like I said, read that chapter and that'll make a little bit more sense. But basically, We want to use a purposive sample because that's going to maximize the richness and the thick description that we're going to be able to collect from our respondents. Now, coding is actually a critical part of respondents in this sample. And it's critical because it helps us to maintain confidentiality and affects the way the research arrives at the interpretation stemming from the data analysis. And so by coding, I can look at things as perspectives rather than as Joe said X and Barb said Y. So coding is really important. Again, check out your course resources because I provided you with some stuff on how to do coding. A quick example of that, though, is if I am talking about what respondent 1 in focus group 2 said, I may code that person as R1F2. It's really irrelevant how you decide to do it. Just make it so you can understand where your data came from. Now, Strauss condensed the elements of the process into the following in 1990. He said, we have the concept indicator model, the data collection process, and on and on and on, all the way down. I'm going to go one step further in 2010. I'm going to break it down and say, let's simplify that. We have the concept indicator model, that we have these themes, and they're going to lead us to some type of implication. Then we do a purposive sample. We collect that data by whatever means we deem necessary based on our research question. We code the respondent's information. We see those core categories and themes emerging from that constant comparative analysis, and then that develops into grounded theory. It's a 7-piece process, but it moves much quicker than that. So what is focus group research? We just talked about grounded theory research. Now we're going to hit focus group research. Well, focus groups, they're a group of individuals selected and assembled by researchers to discuss and comment on, from personal experience, the topic that is the subject of research. Powell and Singal said that in '96. So here's the thing. We just get a group of people who are going to hang out together and talk about a particular subject, and that's going to give us perspective about the context at which that subject is a part of. Now, these people can be identified as, well, these groups can be identified as a collective activity, a social event, or an organized discussion. It's a very naturalistic, holistic way to look at research. There's a purity to it. It should be used when we want to collect perspectives to aid in understanding a given context or impact on something on a group of people. So, if we want to get a snapshot of a particular context, we should probably talk to the people within that context. This is where focus groups are incredibly beneficial.